Are you facing criminal charges and you're worried about the immigration consequences of those charges? Well, this video is for you. My name is Jorge Molina. I am an immigration attorney based in Dallas, Fort Worth, and serving clients worldwide. And today we're going to be talking about some of the more common reasons why people end up in deportation proceedings and how to avoid them. All right, guys, no one's perfect. We all make mistakes, and many times, if we're not U.S. citizens, if we commit those mistakes here in the United States, we could face deportation. So today we're going to be talking about some of the more common reasons why people end up in deportation proceedings, okay? So for this purpose, I'm going to be referring to lawful residents or to people who have some form of immigration status that end up in deportation proceedings, because if you're out of status, pretty much anything that, flags you to immigration officials could land you in deportation. So it could be for jaywalking, public intoxication, driving without a driver's license. Depending on your location, if you don't have any immigration status in the US, you could end up in deportation proceedings. So anything could happen. And then the advice there would be, well, be very careful. Don't make any mistakes or anything. So not really focusing on that. We have lots of videos also about defenses and other things you can do if you're undocumented. But today we're going to be talking about people with lawful status in the US. So two main categories, all right? Crimes involving moral turpitude. Now, this is a very technical phrase, been used for centuries. But what it really means is something that is inherently bad. It's bad conduct. And it requires a culpable mental state, right? So things like fraud or check theft, things like that are crimes involving moral turpitude. It's a big umbrella of a term, and I'm going to be telling you more about it in a few moments. And then number two, we're going to be talking about controlled substance violations, whether it's possession, distribution, anything like that. Those are very common reasons why people end up facing deportation proceedings. Now, regarding crimes involving moral turpitude, if you're a lawful resident and you commit one crime involving moral turpitude within 5 years of becoming a lawful resident, you're going to be deportable. Okay, so how to avoid a situation where you could be deportable for a crime? Well, first off, first you need to hire a good criminal defense attorney, and then that criminal defense attorney has to work with another attorney, an immigration attorney, to come up with a plan for a potential plea deal, or know if it's worth taking it to court to fight the charges. So ways to avoid a conviction for a crime involving moral turpitude is to avoid any sentence in which there is a culpable mental state. So or there's a lesser included culpable mental state. So in Texas, for example, the assault statute can be committed either intentionally or recklessly. Okay, so in Texas, if you commit assault, this is not a crime involving moral turpitude, because recklessness is not a culpable mental state bad enough to qualify. Okay, we have we have decades of case precedent on this aspect. Okay, so if you're facing something about fraud or anything like that, perhaps you plead to a strict liability offense, which is a liability or an offense that you're culpable just for making it. There's no culpable mental state requirement. Okay, so that's one way. If you're convicted of fraud, another way to avoid a conviction, let's say it's outside the 5-year statutory period for lawful residents, you can say it's 7 years. But often, let's say you do check fraud, and if it's over $10,000, it's going to be an aggravated felony. So that means that you could also face deportation for that. So a way of doing this is making sure that the loss to the victim is less than $10,000. Again, this is something that your criminal defense attorney should be discussing with your immigration attorney to see if we can avoid a conviction, or if we can't, to avoid being placed in deportation proceedings. So before you plead make sure you're talking to an experienced immigration attorney that can explain the immigration consequences. And then the other big reason for people to end up in deportation proceedings are controlled substance violations, right? So if it's even simple possession of cocaine, marijuana, anything like that, even if it's legal in your state, you can still end up in deportation proceedings. Okay, so anything that violates controlled substance the controlled substance law is a reason for why they can deport you. So how to avoid, deportation for a controlled substance? And this is very interesting because there's a big difference between people with lawful status and without lawful status. So if you have lawful status, it's up to the government to show that you committed an offense for which they can deport you. So if there's no mention in your plea deal or the record what the drug was, and they cannot tie it to your case, then you're not deportable. And importantly, for you to raise that defense, you must not admit the allegations. So, maybe you did a very good plea deal in the criminal side, but then you show up to court and you concede everything and then you're asking for something else. I think that's a mistake. So you need to be very aware of where you need to collaborate and then when to remain quiet. Okay. Here's another thing that happens often. Even if you have lawful status, you can travel, and you're not deportable. If you travel internationally and then you're presenting yourself at the border and you have a criminal record, you can end up in deportation proceedings. So even if it's a conviction from 20 years ago and they have never placed you in deportation proceedings, you can end up there if you travel internationally. So avoid that situation. If you're pleading guilty and then you're sure that you're not deportable, you can still be inadmissible. So before you travel internationally after pleading, make sure that they're going to allow you back in after you plead. Now, guys, this is complex. This is one of those situations where you really do need to work with an experienced immigration attorney that knows the law, that can collaborate with your criminal defense attorney. So if you're in that situation, please consult an experienced immigration attorney. And if you like this video, please hit like, share, maybe drop a comment. Again, my name is Jorge Molina. Thank you for watching.